This village is dark. A lone shinobi walks on his way toward the gate. Sasuke had finally made up his mind. His clash with Naruto, as well as his encounter with Itachi, had convinced him that he could grow far stronger under the tutelage of Orochimaru. If anything, he hopes to compare to the Sound 4 as a start, but as he reaches the gate, he hears someone call out to him. "Sasuke!" It was Sakura. She stood in his path. She asked him not to go, and even threatened to scream. She said anything she could to make him stay. She even confessed her obvious love to him. Sasuke stood there silently, thinking about everything she was saying. He turned to look at her. He then nodded. "Okay, I won't leave." What if Sasuke never left the village? Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Sasuke was born to Mikoto and Fugaku Uchiha. He was their second child and the little brother to Itachi Uchiha, who cared for his brother deeply. Sasuke was still but a baby when the Nine-Tails attacked the village and thus never remembered it, but he did survive due to his elder brother's actions. Sasuke grew up in Itachi's shadow and was constantly compared to him. Given Itachi's prodigious nature, it was a lot to expect of a child, and even Itachi saw that, going so far as to take time out of his busy schedule to play with his younger sibling, and even blackmailing his father into doing so as well. Itachi was the only one who saw Sasuke for who he truly was. After everything, Sasuke was closer to Itachi than he was with his parents. As time passed, Itachi began to grow distant and cold towards his family and clan. Sasuke didn't understand why. The silver lining was, now that Itachi was distant, their father began to spend more time with Sasuke and recognize him more. Sasuke quickly learned the Great Fireball technique, which Fugaku praised Sasuke for. However, he warned Sasuke not to follow in Itachi's footsteps. Little did Sasuke know the reasons behind it. Itachi had slowly began to separate himself from his clan due to the darkness brewing in them. The coup that they had been thinking about was getting closer and closer to becoming a reality, and Itachi hated that. He knew that war would bring bloodshed and hatred. He knew that it would cause a new shinobi world war. He shared these feelings with Shisui, who had hoped to stop such things with his Mangekyo Sharingan's ability, Konoha Matsukami. However, before he could cast it, Danzo attempted to steal his eyes, leaving Shisui half blind. Offering him his other eyes, Shisui committed suicide in front of Itachi and entrusted the clan and village to him. This awakened Itachi's own Mangekyo Sharingan. The Uchiha began to believe that Itachi had murdered Shisui though, which only further deepened the rift. Sasuke, meanwhile, oblivious to all of this, continued to train and study in the academy. After a long day of training, happy-go-lucky Sasuke comes home to find a lot of dead bodies. Sasuke then rushes home to tell his parents about the massacre, but upon entering his home he found their bodies as well, with Itachi standing over them. Sasuke runs to his brother to find comfort, only to be cast under the Tsukiyomi, and be forced to relive his parents' murder at Itachi's hands. Sasuke asks for an explanation, but Itachi only tells him that it was a test to his own strength. A lesser man would have cracked ages ago. Sasuke attempts to flee for his life, believing he's next on the chopping block, but Itachi cornered him. He explains to Sasuke that as he isn't worth killing, and that there is no challenge to it. He tells Sasuke to come and find him when he eventually awakens eyes like Itachi's. This whole ordeal did awaken Sasuke's Sharingan, but he was far from awakening his Mangekyo Sharingan. Sasuke would attempt to attack Itachi, but would utterly fail. Before passing out, he would witness Itachi crying. For the next few days, Sasuke found himself wandering the Uchiha clan streets alone. This whole ordeal had changed him forever. Sasuke became cold and distant himself, and had eventually began to do what Itachi had told him to. He started to foster hatred in his heart, and dedicated his life to Itachi's downfall and the revival of his clan. He continued through the academy, attempting to grow strong enough to destroy Itachi. He didn't attempt to make friends and ignored the girls who attempted to woo him. Naruto happened to be in this class too, and hated the edgy and cool nature that Sasuke presented, and began a one-sided rivalry that was more annoying to Sasuke than anything else. However, Sasuke respected Naruto because Naruto was one of the few kids in the class who understood what it was like to lose things, to be alone. Sasuke is later added to Team 7, where he's under the guidance of Kakashi Hatake and placed among his peers Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto was always up to various antics and pranks, the mark of a kid starving for attention, and Sakura was always swooning over Sasuke, which was annoying. Sasuke himself remained calm and collected, yet brooding for the most part. Upon meeting Kakashi-sensei, their Jonin found it proper to get to know his team more. He asked who they were, to describe themselves, what they liked and what they disliked, and what their goals for the future were. Sakura's answers all turned up Sasuke, no surprise, and Naruto's dreams were to be the Hokage. Sasuke's likes were nothing, his dislikes were everything, and his goals were obvious: to kill his brother and restore their clan. Kakashi began the bell test we all know and love as a way to test their teamwork. Sasuke went all out and attempted to take the bells himself. Kakashi was surprised with how close Sasuke came to actually taking the bells from him, and was even more surprised to find that Sasuke had enough chakra to perform the fireball jutsu. Naruto, on the other hand, possessed one of the most advanced variants of the Shadow Clone Jutsu that he had seen from a fresh from the academy genin like him. But sadly, this hothead was a one-trick pony who displayed little subtlety and strategy, and it seemed neither he nor Sasuke were willing to work together. And even worse, when the going got tough, Naruto seemingly gave up and attempted to eat lunch without his team, which automatically cost him his lunch when Kakashi found him. Naruto was left tied up to a post while Sakura and Sasuke ate. However, Sasuke was the first to realize that if they had a shot against Kakashi, they needed all their strength, and began to share a portion of his lunch with him, even against Kakashi's wishes, and Sakura did the same. Kakashi caught them doing so, and they all believed that he would fail them, but instead he passed them, as he had been trying to show them that teamwork was imperative, even if you had nothing to gain from it. The three officially began their shinobi career under their sensei, and began to take on a list of D-rank missions until Naruto secures them a C-rank mission. However, this C-rank mission turns out to be A-rank when it comes to light what they're dealing with, but Kakashi still remains adamant that he and his team can handle it, and so the mission continues. Tazuna, an architect, is to be escorted to the Land of Waves, where he'll help build a bridge that will connect the Land of Waves to the mainland, which will help stabilize the Land of Waves economy. However, this becomes A-rank when the Demon Brothers attack. Naruto freezes, but Sasuke steps in to save him from dying. As it turns out, this bridge is not good business for the local mafioso, Gato, but they press on. Sasuke makes fun of Naruto's crisis, calling him a scaredy cat for freezing, but later has a crisis of his own while witnessing the battle between Zabuza and Kakashi. However, he recovers, and he and Naruto team up to save Kakashi from the water prison. They use the transformation jutsu to turn Naruto into a demon wind shuriken and throw him. However, when Zabuza dodges, Naruto shifts back and throws a kunai, which catches Zabuza off guard enough to break his concentration and allow Kakashi to break free of the jutsu. Zabuza is then supposedly killed by a mist hunter nin who is actually working alongside him and helps him escape. However, Kakashi is tuckered out from his battle with Zabuza and is bedridden for a while due to chakra overuse. However, just because Kakashi can't work doesn't mean his team can't train. So for the time he's out of commission, he has Team 7 work on their chakra control. To do this, he explains the process of running up trees and managing to stand upside down from one. It's all about flowing chakra to the bottom of your feet and controlling it. Sakura almost picks it up immediately, but it's a bit harder for Sasuke and Naruto. Sasuke adds too much chakra and sticks his feet through the tree, and Naruto uses too little, which causes him to slip off the surface. Both Naruto and Sasuke train to control this, but it's not as easy as it seems. Sasuke eventually begins to catch up, but Naruto continues to have issues, prompting him to continue training through the night, where he meets Haku. They decide to leave Naruto behind while they go to guard and oversee the bridge's construction. Naruto eventually does wake up though and foils a plot to kidnap Inari and his mother, and then follows Team 7 to the bridge. However, he finds that a battle's taking place. Team 7 has been met with Zabuza and Haku, and Sasuke has decided to face off against the latter. Haku locks him in the demonic ice mirrors jutsu, where Sasuke finds he can't escape. He can't melt the ice, and he's got Haku's senbon coming from every direction. Naruto shows up to help, but to Sasuke's horror, Naruto jumps into the trap too, and gets caught as well. Unable to escape, they're at Haku's mercy, being struck left and right by the senbon. Haku attempts to finish off Naruto, and in an act of self-sacrifice, Sasuke jumps in the way and takes the senbon, collapsing. This awakens the nine-tailed demon fox's energy within Naruto, and causes him to lash out at Haku and one-shot him. Sakura, on the other hand, deserts her post by Tazuna's side and goes to Sasuke only to find him possibly dead. She cries out for him, and her cries tell everyone nearby the status of the situation. However, Haku also sacrifices himself to save Zabuza from Kakashi's Chidori, and Zabuza later sacrifices himself to slaughter Gato and his mob and then dies beside Haku. Sasuke isn't actually dead and wakes up a moment later. He recovers from his wounds and they return to the village afterwards. They complete a few more unremarkable D-rank missions. However, Kakashi's faith in them grows and he recommends them to the Chunin exams, which they all join together. However, word of Sasuke's prodigious nature spreads and invites challenge in the form of Rock Lee, a pure taijutsu-only genin. Naruto is easily swept aside despite his best efforts, and Sasuke engages in a quick battle and finds himself on the losing end until he's interrupted by the appearance of Might Guy, Rock Lee's mentor and the head jonin of Team 3. They sign up for the exams, and the first test is a written one, which Sasuke effortlessly deduces is a test to see who can cheat without getting caught. It's not a test of intelligence, but instead a test of how sly you are. This doesn't stop those like Sakura from acing it without cheating anyway. Naruto doesn't answer a single question, yet still passes due to his guts in taking the final question, which if he failed at, he'd be stuck forever as a genin. Of course, this was a lie, and he took it anyway and passed without even answering the questions. The second test was the Forest of Death. The goal was a form of capture the flag between genin, which should last a few days' time. Each team was given a scroll that was either black or white and told not to open it. Their goal was to find a scroll of the opposite color and make their way to the tower at the center of the forest. During the test, they're met with Orochimaru, who is posing as a genin from the Hidden Sound and attempts to attack Team 7. Sasuke freezes to Orochimaru's killing intent, but Naruto is not fazed and saves him, calling Sasuke a scaredy cat, which reminds him of what he said to Naruto when he was attacked by the Demon Brothers. Naruto attacks Orochimaru in his initial Jinchuriki state, but Orochimaru places an extra seal over Naruto's seal to lock his power away, causing Naruto to pass out. Sasuke continues to attack Orochimaru, but Orochimaru strikes out and bites Sasuke, placing a seal mark on his shoulder, which causes intense pain and forces Sasuke to pass out. After some time, and with the help of Rock Lee, Sakura defends Naruto and Sasuke until they awaken. They proceed to get the appropriate scroll and make it to the center tower and pass the test. With that out of the way, the final test is set to begin, the exhibition matches. Sasuke is told that if he uses the curse seal Orochimaru branded him with, he will be disqualified. However, Sasuke can't use chakra without activating the seal. Whatever will he do? He's forced to use only taijutsu for the time being and ends up fighting against Yoroi Akado, who attempts to siphon his chakra. However, Sasuke manages to defeat him by using the lion combo, a technique that he developed from watching Rock Lee's attacks. Kakashi then takes Sasuke to the side and applies the evil sealing jutsu on his cursed mark to keep it from flaring up as often. This causes Sasuke to pass out, and by the time he awakens, the preliminaries are over. The genin get a month off to train and prepare for the next set of rounds. During this time, Sasuke trains with Kakashi. Kakashi wants Sasuke to have something to rely on besides the cursed seal, and so he teaches him Chidori, and helps Sasuke to strengthen his taijutsu skills and further emulate Rock Lee as he had during the last match. Through this, Sasuke's speed and agility increase sharply. Sasuke finds that he's late to the matches, and while this normally would mean he's disqualified, he isn't because the crowd anticipated this battle so much that they decided to wait for him. Sasuke is set to face off against Gaara of the Hidden Sand. However, Sasuke finds he can't even touch Gaara due to a sand shield he has, but Sasuke manages to get through the shield with his Chidori and wounds Gaara's arm. At this time, Sasuke senses Shukaku, the one tail within Gaara. But before the battle can continue, Kabuto uses the Temple of Nirvana technique to put the entire stadium to sleep. The Konoha Crush begins, and Orochimaru makes his play to kill the Hokage and destroy the leaf. Gaara attempts to escape but is pursued by Sasuke. Kankuro attempts to hold Sasuke off, but Shino appears to battle Kankuro in his place, allowing Gaara to escape. However, Sasuke stays on his trail, and by the time he reaches him, Gaara is already partially transformed into Shukaku. Sasuke attempts to use the Chidori again and manages to wound Gaara once more. However, Gaara is still able to attack and attempts to strike out at Sasuke, which he narrowly avoids. Sasuke realizes that he's low on chakra and doesn't have much of a choice. He proceeds to use the cursed mark to allow him to use Chidori a third time, though he's afterwards paralyzed and left at Gaara's mercy. Sakura and Naruto appear to help him, but Gaara manages to defeat Sakura and capture her easily. Naruto begins to show trouble in the battle, and Sasuke offers to use the last of his chakra to become a distraction, to allow Naruto and Sakura to escape. But Naruto refuses and then taps into his tailed beast power, and summons 1,000 shadow clones and later Gamabunta. Sasuke is shocked by this power and watches Naruto defeat Gaara, though Naruto is left paralyzed from the battle. Sasuke collects Naruto and Sakura and returns to the village. They would later attend the third Hokage's funeral. Later, they decide it's best to replace Hiruzen with Tsunade, another of Hiruzen's students, and the third member of the Sannin other than Orochimaru and Jiraiya. They decide to send Jiraiya and Naruto to do so. Sasuke, on the other hand, goes to a dango shop to meet Kakashi for lunch, to find Kakashi arriving uncharacteristically early. It doesn't last long though, as Kakashi then cancels and proceeds to leave. Later that day, Kakashi is found comatose in his home. Sasuke asked what happened, and they mostly keep a tight lid on it until one of the Jonin accidentally divulges Itachi's involvement and desire to find Naruto. Sasuke immediately rushes off to find Naruto and hopefully defeat Itachi. Sasuke shows up to find Itachi and Kisame attacking Naruto. Sasuke attacks Itachi with his Chidori, but Itachi defends and breaks Sasuke's arm. Jiraiya appears and attempts to defeat both Itachi and Kisame, but Sasuke declares that Itachi's his. However, Itachi casts Sasuke aside and puts him under the Tsukiyomi to relive their parents' death over and over again. Sasuke is told by Itachi that he's still far too weak, and Sasuke is then hospitalized in a comatose fashion, much like Kakashi was. Naruto later brings Tsunade to the hospital, where Sasuke and Kakashi find their minds healed by her. Sasuke broods over his loss to Itachi, as well as Naruto's victory over Gaara, something Sasuke couldn't achieve. He later challenges Naruto to a fight to prove he's still superior. The fight escalates quickly, and it results in Naruto and Sasuke using their signature moves, the Rasengan and Chidori respectfully. Sasuke believes he was stronger, but upon closer examination of the water towers after Kakashi deflected their attacks, Sasuke finds that Naruto's water tower was destroyed. Kakashi later catches up to Sasuke and scolds him for using the Chidori and to consider what's important. This forces Sasuke to consider whether seeking revenge or his friendship with Sakura and Naruto is more important. The Sound Four appear and attack Sasuke, but stop short of killing him. They offer to take him to Orochimaru, where he can gain all the necessary strength it takes to be as strong or stronger than they are. This gets Sasuke thinking, and thus brings us to our divergence point. Sasuke decides to leave and makes his way to the village gate, but Sakura meets him there and attempts to convince him not to leave. Sasuke stops and thinks about it and finally makes his decision. But instead of choosing vengeance, Sasuke decides that the best thing for him to do is maintain the bonds he's made. Even if he killed Itachi, it wouldn't bring the Uchiha back. And while Sasuke so wishes to kill Itachi with his bare hands, he decides what is most important is his friends. And so he turns back to Sakura and decides to return to the village with her, much to her delight. Sasuke would later approach Naruto and apologize for attempting to kill him. He would explain his actions and tell him that he was upset because he didn't feel like he was getting any stronger, and that he almost left the village to train under Orochimaru in hopes of getting strong enough to kill Itachi. But he decided against it because he wanted to stay in the village to remain friends with him and Sakura. Naruto would give off his classic Naruto smile and would tell him that it's all water under the Land of Waves Great Naruto Bridge, and further vows to get stronger alongside Sasuke. From this point on, Naruto and Sasuke proceed to train heavily. Naruto would leave to train with Jiraiya, and Sasuke would further train with Kakashi. Over the 2-year time skip, Sasuke and Naruto would reunite with Sakura and reform Team 7, where Kakashi could once more do the bell test, and find that his team is far more coordinated than before, and manage to get the bells quickly from him. This is around the time the Kazekage, Gaara of the Hidden Sand, is kidnapped by the Akatsuki for his tailed beast. The unified Team 7 head out to recover the Kazekage and find that he's already dead due to having his tailed beast stripped from him. As they get closer, an imposter in the shape of Itachi appears and stirs Sasuke into battle, but it is then revealed that it was an imposter. They eventually find Sasori and Deidara, and they manage to get Gaara's body away from Deidara. They proceed to fight against Sasori, in which Sasuke displays the new technique he formed with Kakashi-sensei, an upgraded form of the Chidori known as the Raikiri. He uses it to put an end to Sasori, but together they learn that Sasori was planning to meet Orochimaru at the Tenchi Bridge. Yamato is admitted to the team shortly after the Kazekage rescue mission due to Kakashi being admitted to the hospital. Yamato disguises himself as Sasori, but Kabuto and Orochimaru discover this ploy and attack. Team 7 strikes out against Orochimaru, and with Sasuke's help and Naruto's version 2 Tailed Beast mode, manage to kill Orochimaru and Kabuto. However, Naruto continues to attack, going after Team 7 next, but Sasuke steps in the way, defending Sakura from Naruto and getting wounded in the process. Naruto is then pacified by Yamato and promptly healed by Sakura. She then heals Sasuke, and Naruto's confused about what happened and then swears off version 2. After this, Naruto begins to work on a new jutsu as the Akatsuki are declared a greater threat and proceed to hunt them, only for Team Asuma to find Hidan and Kakuzu. Hidan kills Asuma much like in the original series, and also much like in the original series, Hidan and Kakuzu are both defeated, only it happens more quickly due to Sasuke being there to help. Meanwhile, Jiraiya is attempting to learn about the Akatsuki in the village hidden in the rain, but discovers that it's currently in the control of a man called Pain, who turns out to be his former student Nagato. He battles with the Six Paths but is killed. Meanwhile, Itachi knows that time is running short, so he leaves a breadcrumb trail for Sasuke to follow, and so Team 7 and 8 are formed together to hunt him down. Sasuke says he wishes to fight Itachi alone, but Naruto and Sakura tell him that even though he's grown stronger, that's suicide. Sasuke refuses this and says that even if they're all a team, he still needs to face his brother one-on-one. He says that if he doesn't come back, he had a wonderful time being on their team, but Sakura forces him to promise that he will come back. Eventually, Sasuke meets up with Itachi and they fight. But even with his cursed seal and the revived Orochimaru's power, he still loses to Itachi, who has the seal removed from Sasuke in his last moments. All this goes down, Naruto and his team go into a battle against Tobi, who's trying to hold them off from helping Sasuke, under the pretense that Sasuke will perish and allow Itachi to gain the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. But in truth, he actually plans for Sasuke to awaken Mangekyo Sharingan and then get the transplant with Itachi's eyes and awaken the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan instead. It's Tobi's belief that upon telling Sasuke the truth, he will turn to the dark side and attempt to destroy the Leaf Village. However, after the battle, Sasuke passes out and is later taken to a room where he's met by Tobi, who reveals himself as supposedly Madara, and is almost killed when Amaterasu activates. However, Tobi survives and explains it all to Sasuke, about the Hidden Leaf, and how they ordered Itachi to kill them. This leaves Sasuke shocked. Meanwhile, a crow flies through the air as Naruto and Sakura attempt to find Sasuke, and it makes eye contact with Naruto, activating Konoha Tsukami through the implanted Mangekyo Sharingan, and through it, the dead Itachi speaks with Naruto and tells him all. Tells him everything he did and everything Sasuke's learning, and how the leaf had asked him to kill the Uchiha to prevent a war and further spy on the Akatsuki to stay one step ahead, and how painful it was to treat Sasuke that way. Naruto is shocked by it all, and Itachi asks Naruto one thing. He asks Naruto to tell Sasuke that it's okay. Itachi chose that path because he loved Sasuke, and because he loved his village. If he hadn't done so, the Uchiha would have risen up against the leaf and destroyed it, possibly instigating a new world war. It was hard for Itachi to do, but in the end, even Fugaku knew that it was the right thing to do. Sasuke would be left alone from Tobi, walking in a daze through the forest toward what he assumed was his friend's chakra signatures. His eyes are still bleeding from the use of Amaterasu. He would find his friends and be unable to speak. They'd bring him back to the village where he'd be treated. Sasuke seemed angry, mad, wrathful even. He seemed to gaze at the Hokage monument with contempt. Naruto and Sakura would appear, and he would tell them that he wasn't sure if he could ever forgive the leaf, and that he's beginning to wish he had left that day to train under Orochimaru. But Naruto stops him there and mentions that he spoke with Itachi through some Sharingan technique and explained what Itachi had said to him. Sasuke breaks down into tears thinking about it. It wasn't just the leaf he was hating right now, it was himself. How could he have lived so long hating the only person left in his family who loved him? Naruto would continue to explain why Itachi chose to do it. After all the explanation, Sasuke asks what it even means to be a shinobi, and Tsunade would show up with Kakashi. Both would explain to him that a shinobi was someone who never gave up and did what they needed for the good of the village, not themselves. In the end, Sasuke cannot bring himself to destroy the very thing that his brother gave his life to spare, and so he decides to remain in the leaf, and he even gets the Sharingan transplanted later on to gain access to the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. And in true anime fashion, I'm going to give you a filler arc that happens between these two canon episodes. In this filler arc, after gaining access to the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Danzo decides he wants it for himself, because what could be better than a Mangekyo Sharingan like the one he stole from Shisui, an eternal one that he can steal from Sasuke. Danzo would face off against Sasuke and ambush him much like he did Shisui. However, Sasuke doesn't go down so easily. Naruto faces off against Root, among which is Sai. After quite a battle, Sasuke is wounded, but not before Naruto shows up with Kakashi. They manage to stave off the Root members. Sasuke attempts to use his Susanoo to defeat Danzo, but Danzo uses his Izanagi technique to escape death. However, unlike in canon, Sasuke has the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, meaning he can just spam its powers without losing much of anything. He eventually manages to kill Danzo, but is readmitted to the hospital to recover. It later comes to light that Jiraiya has died in battle, and this is told to Naruto, who later is comforted by Sasuke and Sakura. He's later invited to Mount Myoboku to train under the Frog Sages, and he goes. While he's gone, Sasuke and Sakura are left alone. Sasuke knows that Naruto is going to learn Senjutsu, and knows that without his cursed mark, he will need something to increase his own punching power. He recalls something he read from Orochimaru's lair, and decides to enact a plan to get stronger himself and leaves the village. Quite a bit of time passes since Naruto and Sasuke left Konoha, and Pain decides he must take the initiative to take the Nine Tails. Pain and his Six Paths begin to show up in Konoha and begin attacking. During the process, many civilians and shinobi alike are killed, including Kakashi, but don't worry, this happened in canon events too. Naruto eventually shows up and battles against Paige in his Sage mode, but is pinned down by chakra rods. Hinata appears to save him and fight Pain, but is knocked back. Before Pain can deal a fatal blow to her, she's saved. Naruto looks up to see Sasuke there, who has since returned to the village. He looks back to show he has a strange pigmentation around his eyes, but also possesses the same iris slits as a snake. While Naruto was at Mount Myoboku, Sasuke was at Ryuchi Cave. He frees Naruto, and together they fight Pain, and they come out on top. Naruto would then take the chakra rod and make his way to where Nagato was. He would speak to Nagato about pain and hatred, but also of hope and belief in people. This convinces Pain to use the Six Paths technique, Samsara of Heavenly Life, to revive all who he has killed, including Kakashi. However, Tsunade falls into a coma due to the attack, and a new interim Hokage is needed. It's decided that Kakashi should be the man. A 5-Kage summit is called to deal with the Akatsuki, and Kakashi attends it as Hokage. During this summit, the Raikage, A, is chosen to lead the United Shinobi Forces. Tobi appears and demands the Nine Tails be turned over to him, but is refused, and as such declares the 4th Shinobi World War. During this time, because Naruto is the Jinchuriki that Tobi's after, they send him away to an island under the pretense of training with Killer Bee. There are then various skirmishes between the allied shinobi forces and the Zetsu, but nothing they can't handle, and since Orochimaru and Kabuto are both dead, there is no Edo Tensei, so the Hokage and previous members of the Akatsuki are never revived. but given that all Toby needs is the Ten Tails, he's fine. Naruto eventually arrives at the scene of the final battle in his Kurama Sage mode, which is vastly stronger than before. Sasuke sighs as it seems that Naruto is always a step ahead of him. While the allied shinobi forces believe they're safe from the Ten Tails, Obito shows up to take the tailed beast from Naruto. He believes that his Kamui would make him invincible, but after a battle it's revealed that Kakashi has Kamui as well, and they can use that to defeat Toby. Toby manages to escape them just long enough that he can reclaim the eye from Kakashi, which makes it impossible to stop him with Kamui, and manages to remove the Nine Tails from Naruto using the Geto statue's chakra chains. Naruto is left dying, and Sakura tries to keep him alive, but it seems like it's too late. The Ten Tails is revived and then absorbed into Obito. Sasuke viciously fights him, but seems to be of no avail. Sasuke even utilizes his Susanoo and Sage mode, but nothing comes of it. Sakura watches as Naruto takes his last breath and then finds he's gone. However, she sees a vision of the Sage of Six Paths who tells her of the importance of Naruto's revival, and so Sakura decides that she must make a hard decision. After witnessing it once, she tries to recreate it and thus performs the one's own life reincarnation technique to bring Naruto back to life, and then she dies in his arms. Naruto lets out a scream of rage which draws Sasuke's attention. He sees it. Immediately, both Naruto and Sasuke see a version of the Sage of Six Paths, who presents each with half of his chakra, causing Naruto to awaken Six Paths Sage mode, and Sasuke to awaken a Rinnegan. They also get the Sun and Moon seals on their hands. Together they strike at Obito and manage to separate the Ten Tails from him, killing him. They later use the Six Paths Chibaku Tensei to seal it up into a second moon, thus ending the Fourth Shinobi World War. Of course, the original moon is later destroyed during the events of the last movie, in which Naruto and Sasuke travel to the moon to stop Tenerio Otsutsuki from destroying the Earth and manage to save Hinata. Naruto marries Hinata, and Sasuke ends up with Ino eventually, and gives birth to Inosuke Uchiha, a boy and the beginning of the Uchiha clan's revival. Also, I couldn't use Sarada because the name needs to evoke both parents, and must start with Ino to keep the Ino Shikacho trio tradition alive. Sorry, Sarada. So what do you think? Is this how you see the series going if Sasuke never left? Do you think that Sasuke would have eventually gone bad anyway? Or do you think he would have remained a member of Team 7 to the end, even after discovering the truth? Would he have ever learned the truth? I'm eager to hear your opinions on this. Please leave a comment below and remember to like the video to show support for the channel. Subscribe and ring that bell to be notified of when new content like this drops. Peace.